I've got a series of questions, but I think in view of the time, what I'd like to do is just ask Roger one more and then open it so that you can pose questions to Roger. And this really is to round out this part, to ask Roger what he did. Well, I know what he did, and I told you earlier. What he did was he turned to writing after Oslo and after some of the frustrations of that. And I think if he can just, let me speak to you, if you'll just explain to us why you did this and what you got from it. I think that will be a good point at which we can then open it to questions from the floor.
After I got depressed with the Oslo, I thought I don't want to, I had been working for all these years on the legal case and thinking, of course, that the law itself is not going to bring any result, but it's going to be negotiations, obviously. And when negotiations happen, I thought I would do what I can to help these negotiations, and I was very enthusiastic about the negotiations. It was a slap on the face that the negotiations brought us to point zero, confused everything, and made me feel that I lost all these years working on this legal case and it came to nothing. And then I thought there's nothing to do because the only work that one can do is political. The opposition is Hamas. I'm not going to join Hamas. And so I decided I will write a few legal analysis of Oslo because I have to sort of write this final chapter, and then that is it. It wasn't it because I was so depressed. Whenever there was a dinner party, I would speak about how depressing Oslo is, and people thought, of course, of Oslo as excellent and the hope for peace, and so I was annoying, and my wife said, stop, you can't keep doing this, you will have no friends left. And so I had to get it out of my system, and the only way really that I got it out of my system was writing this, because it's not a legal study, it's an emotional study, a work of emotion really, and it made me feel much better afterwards. And in a way, life is a journey, and having done these walks and journeys, I realize it doesn't end there, there's more things coming and more things will happen. And Oslo now, of course, is known to be what it is, and so it's an easier time for me. And I want to say also that winning the Orwell Prize has helped a lot in making the book more popular, bringing the message of the book and helping me get more credibility and giving me opportunities to speak to in venues that otherwise would not really have been open to me. And in a way, it has revived my enthusiasm and my activism. So maybe I will begin to be boring once again, and I will have to be shut out once more, but I hope not. Thanks, Roger.
All right, let's have some questions from the audience. I hope the acoustics are good enough. Could I ask you to stand up and try and speak loudly? There's one here, then one, no, here first. Yeah.
Shall I use the microphone or just
turn around and talk. Okay. And let's hope.
Thank you very much for this wonderful book, which I've only read the introduction in one chapter of, and already I know that it is a wonderful piece of work that is inspirational. You've described walks in Palestine. But what interests me in addition to that is how does a professional resident of Ramallah travel from England to Palestine? What is your journey, and what documents do you use to get into your home?
Well, why is not a typical case? I'll tell you the typical case. The typical case is Palestinians. One of the problems of Oslo was to replace by symbols the substance. So the Israeli identity card was replaced by a Palestinian identity card, and the same number that is used in the identity card in Israel, and therefore is a part of the intelligence files and so on, came to be used for what is called a document that is called a Palestinian passport. So Palestinians hold a Palestinian passport, which is really not a passport because there is no yet independent country. But it was, the length of the negotiations regarding the name of this document, because the Israelis wanted it to be a travel document. The Palestinians said no, it has to be called a passport. Went on for months and months and months. But the result is the same. It's not really a passport. It's a travel document. Many stateless people have travel documents which they use and which they have been using for years. And the Palestinians travel on a Palestinian passport on which they get visas for this country and wherever they're going, but which are really no more than travel documents that use exactly the same number that is used on the Israeli identity card.
Yeah.
Raja, I remember 15 years ago when you severely criticised the British and the BBC in particular for having appointed a Zionist as the BBC overseas World Service correspondent at the time of the first attack on Lebanon. I entirely agree with your criticism, but do you think that there has been any amelioration? Do you think there has been any more understanding on the official British part of the Palestinian situation?
You know, the BBC, I think, is very clever in how it reports. And for a while I was thinking, you know, they seem to be okay because they mention stories of things that Israel does which are, you know, bad and which are in violation of Palestinian human rights and so on. And then they, of course, mention things that the Palestinian Authority does. And so this is thought of as being a balanced reporting. Now the problem is that the people who listen to the BBC around the world would simply get very confused. And I realized this, I was walking in the Isle of Skye, and there was a very nice man who stopped to chat, and he said, "Where are you from?" I said, "Palestine," and he wanted to give me his position on Palestine. And from this I really thought, I got something very important, which was that he said, both sides are terrible, they should sit together, they both are in violation of human rights and so on. And I thought, of course he would get this position. He would not get the position that one side is an occupation of the other side, because it's rare that the BBC reporting would give the right context, which is that whatever happens is happening within the context of occupation. And the problem is the occupation. The occupation should end, and that's what it is. So it is not balanced. Balance is not by saying that these sides do bad things, this side do bad things, and therefore we give 3 minutes here, 3 minutes there. That's not balance. And that's why when a study was made amongst the what people thought of the situation, many thought that Palestine is an occupation of Israel. Really. And very few people, after all this tremendous hours of reporting, got the facts right, which is that there is an occupation. The occupation has to end before there can be any positive changes.